I'd like to call the Duval Committee of the Whole workshop for April 7th, 2026 to order at 5:33 p.m. Folks had an opportunity to review, I know it's fairly late, but the regular meeting agenda for this evening and concerns, comments. All right, so we have two scheduled discussion items for this evening. I think both of these are sort of a second touch. And the first is discussion of the Duval Municipal Code 14.08 permitting processing, and that discussion will be led by Cynthia McNabb, our city administrator.
Good evening, staff, council, mayor, members of the community. Cynthia McNabb, city administrator. So the 1408 document that is in the packet is a second touch document. This is going to planning. Well, I went to planning commission last week. They deliberated, had no further adjustments or suggested edits or corrections. This week, it will be second touch to city council tonight. And then it has its first hearing in front of the planning commission tomorrow. And then we'll have its second hearing for city council on 4/21. And then would move to adoption. As a reminder, this went out for SEPA and we had no SEPA comments. It also went to the Department of Commerce for a 60-day review, and the Department of Commerce offered no comments. Much of the document is largely reflective of what the Department of Commerce has put together for their guidelines and suggested template protocols. So where we had some ability to deviate and make it kind of Duval specific, we did, but we really were mindful of trying to ensure that we were following Commerce's guidance, since this was development out of state law. So with that, I have no further presentation, just other than to answer any questions, see where we might get concurrence on some items if there are open issues. And then before I do that, I want to be sure to introduce Avril Beatty, who is our new community and economic development director. So while this is about 1408, we could also have an opportunity to talk to Avril in more informal. So I don't know if you want to say a few words or.
I'm very excited to be here. My name is Avril Beatty. I am in my third decade of all things planning and development related. So very happy to come here and be able to put it to what feels like good use. I live in Redmond, so I'm pretty close. I was already coming out to Duval just for funsies on a regular basis as it is. So I was already a fan. Loved you guys are joining the place. And I'm excited to work here with all of you. So thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah, we're excited to have you get an opportunity to put your sort of stamp on the department as we work through some of this stuff. I know that Cynthia is probably delighted to.
So with that, are there any open issues with 1408 or any questions that we can answer?
Councilmember Hernandez.
I did have one, and we brought it up at the last meeting. Both Rick Schaefer, Councilmember Schaefer, and I had talked about this. The fact that we have expedited review for affordable housing, but we don't actually have any kind of guarantees that we can get that affordable housing. And I was just wondering if there's anything that we can still do to ensure that that expedited review. I'm sorry, I cannot say expedited. That expedited review that actually advances affordable housing rather than just like faster market rate housing. If there's anything that we can do to put that in there.
Yeah, happy to answer that question. So this isn't that process.
Okay.
So this is kind of the how you would do it, but not the what do you do.
Okay.
So coming in May is a whole suite of code revisions that are being developed in response to our comprehensive plan appeal. And so they're under review right now. They're at the department. They are all of the zoning changes. the step housing changes, which is supported. Do you want steps?
Supportive transitional emergency and. I forgot what the P stands for.
Yes. So
Okay.
a section on that, and then the last section, which there's a lot of decision points for council to consider. So the zoning changes are largely required to meet our housing and jobs numbers that you'll see. Step housing is almost a cut and paste from the Department of Commerce and the state legislature on what they want to see for step housing in code. The affordable housing incentive programs, though, are an area where council has a lot of discretion to put together tools to incentivize affordable housing coming in. And that can be, building height, building size waivers, financial incentives. So all of those tools in your toolbox to incentivize getting affordable housing into Duval, that's all coming to council in May.
Oh.
So that's the what.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just sort of to that point, because I know we typically glance over it at the end of the committee of the whole workshop, but it's the council planning calendar, which does have the link, and that's really what we use to build the upcoming agendas off of. So it will show you that in the next X number of weeks, that's very, programmed by staff in terms of deadlines and timelines, but there's the Title 14 zoning code and affordable housing, step housing piece. There's some upcoming work around obviously the sign code and sort of banner policy that we've discussed. There's a unit lot subdivision discussion, which also can sort of feed into that affordable housing, and then a whole bunch of other things sort of being driven by the utility code and design standards pieces. So great resource if you haven't had an opportunity to dig into that. It doesn't have a lot of detail, but at least it will give you sort of forward-looking view of what's coming up on the council.
Appreciate the training on the job.
Oh, yeah, no, the affordable housing incentive program is, like I said, it has a lot of opportunity to design the tools that council wants to see in the community to support affordable housing and try to entice developers to build it. Just as a preview, we have to have something to get through our comp plan appeal. So we have to have an incentive program. What the incentive program has in it, the package of things we'll decide is up to council. So that kind of sets the table for the coming work in May.
Technical questions or questions in general? Not seeing any.
Okay, well, next, we'll have the planning commission review tomorrow with a public hearing. If anything changes, you'll see those changes reflected in the April 21st meeting. And then we'll have the second public hearing. And this is, I want to say, a really big lift for the city to get this work done. It's been under review and probably 3 or 4 drafts for a year and a half. We're late, but now we're gonna have it done. And a huge kudos to the community development team, the planners, as well as Larissa, who put so much heart and time into doing this work. I'm very excited to get this body of work done. So, and to Steve too, who listened to me talk about getting this body of work done.
Yeah, the only piece that I was gonna add just, and it's not a question per se, but I think did we finalize, or actually, I guess we'll have our discussion in the next part, but was really just around, I think the staff consensus around the recommendation you got for the third item, which was really making the planning sort of meeting optional. Was that sort of the directionally where you also decided to go in terms of the planning process?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say for the pre-application meeting, most people take us up on it because they don't want to file something that has no chance of getting through site plan review.
Right.
So even though it's optional, most are going to avail themselves of the opportunity.
Yeah, it sounded like an easy decision. Any questions from you, Councilmember Wiggins, as well?
None from me. Thank you very much, Pro Tem.
Thank you. So the second item for discussion, thank you, City Administrator McNabb, was also City Administrator McNabb. He's going to give us an update to, or second touch on the updates to Duval Municipal Code 2.22, which involve the hearing examiner process, and 2.22 code enforcement.
Mhm. Thank you. So what you have in your packet today is the review. So typically the process that I like to use is bring a first touch to council, talk about the changes, see if there are any amendments, edits, questions. I didn't receive any from council by March 31st. And then I send it out to the city attorney after the first touch so that it's not going twice to the city attorney. So what you have in the packet this evening is the city attorney review draft. So with his comments, suggested changes, Larissa and I went through and made the changes other than a numbering. You'll see the stormwater code enforcement is kind of stuck in the middle. And city attorney had said, oh, well, it would be better if it was at the end, but it would have required us to go back and renumber 2 other code sections. So I talked to Oscar, he's like, oh, that wasn't a substantive comment, it just would have read better. But otherwise, we adopted most of what the city attorney had recommended. So what you have now is a city attorney reviewed chapter 2.22 and chapter 2.24 relating to code enforcement in the hearing examiner. And happy to answer any questions for this one.
Any questions from council?
Yes,
Councilmember Supple?
so under final decision authority,
The 2.2,
2050 jurisdiction final
say 2.24 or 2.22.
2.22.
Let me go there real quick.
22.050.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Okay. Yes.
Does it say, examiner shall hear and issue final decisions on appeals from notices of civil violations? Does that include code violations? Or is this a separate issue?
So this is for code violations. So we have 2 hearing examiner provisions under the municipal code. One is specifically for land use hearings,
Yeah,
which is like site plan review and all of that work. This is for violations of the municipal code relating to noise, litter, condemned buildings, things like that.
all right, so they would make decisions on that?
Yes.
And someone would go to. So how would it, someone had an issue with their neighbor's trash or whatever. What's the process for them to get to the hearing?
So in 2.24, and if you go back, I think we put the chart back in the packet. So your example, somebody has an issue with a neighbor, it would depend a little bit on if it was a land use issue or a code issue. So let's say, oh, you said litter.
Yeah.
So that's probably a notice of civil infraction, which means we would send it to municipal court and it would take the process like a speeding ticket would.
Yeah, I was just a little confused between what goes to civil court and what would go to the land commission, if it's a hearing examiner.
Yeah, so let me see if I can pull up the
Yeah, it's
chart
in that
again.
presentation, but it wasn't attached to the document, so.
Okay, I think we could, I don't know. Kelsey, if we can go back to the packet from 3/17. And then there's a process flow draft.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. So I don't know if this chart exactly will,
Is it in here?
might be in the full packet. Go down a little bit.
In here.
It's It's a process flow chart. If it's
It was in the meeting presentation.
Yeah.
I think from 3/7.
317 and it's called, if you go into the agenda bill 2630.
Yeah.
And then 03_CE process flow draft.
Mhm.
Is it the enforcement matrix? Enforcement, well,
Flow draft, here we go. Okay,
Oh, that on, okay. So,
I'm not sure this will exactly answer your question, but I can describe it more. So complaints kind of take two forms. One is a complaint that deals with the underlying property. So let's take a house that has litter problems resulting from a rat infestation. That deals with the underlying property and is not something that can be easily corrected by getting just a ticket, meaning we need you to resolve it on your property. That's the kind of matter that's going to go to a hearing examiner. And so it followed this process flow of, hey, there seems to be an animal infestation and litter on the property. We need it cleaned up. We're going to go out, we're going to do a visual investigation. If we can't see the problem, we're going to close it. But if not, we're going to talk to the person, ask them to comply. We'll do a second inspection. And then if it isn't fixed or remedied, we'd issue a notice of violation. And that would then go to a hearing examiner because it's about the underlying property. Unless, of course, it's at the top, if it's an immediate threat to health, life, safety, we're going to issue a stop work order, and that's going to get an immediate notice of violation without any further conversation with the property owner. Notices of infraction are a little different. So this code section will have a hybrid process. Notices of infraction, however, are ones that can be immediately corrected or remedied with a civil infraction ticket. So that's your parking enforcement, a noise violation, litter that if it got picked up immediately and doesn't deal with the underlying property, like no animal infestation, for instance. That process in the new code revision is a ticket to the municipal court, and it takes the same process as a speeding ticket, meaning if you didn't pay it or something happened, you would eventually go to a judge through municipal court. So kind of it depends on what the matter is, on what type of hybrid penalty you're going to get. If you look in the code section under 2.24080, that's going to define an infraction and what matters go to an infraction. And then 2.24120 are the kind that would go to civil violation with an appeal to the hearing examiner. I hope that answers your questions. It really depends on what the thing is.
Other questions from council? I just have a comment and question. Is, reading through authors' comments, a lot of some of them were like trying to break you out of jail in terms of like the APA reference, and some others that you like didn't have to go as deep for, so that was good, just guidance. I know one of the items that came up in the last review was just around, and this touched on sort of the chief's role a little bit in terms of the citing for certain types of infractions. I think there was a reference made to the same ticketing system could be used for certain, but there was being research or it required some updates. I was just kind of curious where that stood. It didn't sound like it was a blocker for adopting the code changes. It was just more around from an implementation perspective.
If it's an infraction that deals with a civil penalty, But includes things such as parking and those type of things that involve the vehicle or the roadway surface. That can be handled through an infraction process that is civil, just like a parking ticket. Or a speeding ticket, as city administrator said. It goes to the court, the judge or the magistrate has the ability to review it. And decide if there's a penalty to be committed or not. Most jurisdictions regarding code enforcement work through their prosecutor's office to make sure they work through those issues separately from police. But there are times when one of my things to bring up in the near future is our parking issues. So we have regarding parking ordinance. There are certain parking ordinance that police take effect on or work on. There's also areas that, such as an abandoned vehicle on personal property, where code enforcement becomes involved in that versus law enforcement. So, and sometimes when a vehicle or a property or a litter becomes more of a health hazard, that's where code enforcement also steps in versus somebody just stopping the litter.
Yeah, I wasn't sure because I know the officers have sort of specialized computers in the car, you know, for doing some of that.
It's a ticketing program that we just are now changing. We had a different ticketing program, now we're going to a different thing called PAX. Where if it comes to the point where code enforcement needs to file one of those tickets with the court, we can conduct that training and give them access to that.
Okay, so the code enforcement could use the same software. Yeah. That was fine. Thank you. Any other questions? So we're moving right along this evening. Before we sort of move into reports, I know we do have the good of the order. I have an item that I want to bring up, but I didn't know if any of the other council had any items for the good of the order before we move on to reports. The only item I wanted to mention was the clerk had included the council procedures that went out with the packet. I think the intent is to review it at sort of an upcoming, maybe I think the next council meeting. There was opportunity to provide feedback similar to what Cynthia received so that we can sort of redline it. The only item I was going to mention, John, I went back and forth, and the copy I sent him had a bunch of punctuation corrections, like for mayor and for city council or council member, you know, it's 2 words, 1 word. That's all been cleaned up. I don't think it was in the copy that was sent to council, but it was more Scrivener type corrections. So if you have any feedback, the earlier you can share that, the better, and then we can discuss anything and then hopefully adopt it. And I will bring the code of conduct as well that I know council member Olin worked on, and we can sort of have that conversation at the same time. And then the only other was the plug for which you're probably going to have in one of your reports, but just you know, with the upcoming state of the city and the opportunity for participate and engage with the community in the budget workshop, you know, just make sure that's on the calendar, but I think there'll be other opportunities to reinforce that this evening. So with that, if you're okay, Mayor, you have an opportunity to do your mayor's report.
I'm actually just adding that because I did miss that on my list.
If you want.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I'll try to go through this pretty quickly, and I'm glad I can do it during house. It's a little long. So things I've done in the last few weeks. I attended the March Sound Cities Association board meeting because I am a member of the board. Just there's usual business that we take care of during that time. There's been a lot of chatter about some advocacy things, mainly around KCTD, which is King County Transportation District, but I'll hit on that with one of the next bullet points. I attended the Puget Sound Regional Council, the PSRC's Growth Management Policy Board, the SCA caucus, and the regular meeting. In that meeting, the board recommended certification of comprehensive plans for Bonnie Lake, Pacific, and Seattle. It's been really interesting, and I didn't send those to you. I can continue to send you those to you if it's interesting. It's just interesting to see how they are evaluated, what feedback. There were no conditional certifications recommended this time. These are just full recommendations. So it's just interesting to track how different jurisdictions go through that process. And then in regards to, there's redesignation of regional growth centers. Kirkland, we had pushed that decision out because Kirkland had a big ask of the Totem Lake Center. So there's these criteria that are wrapped around the growth centers, and a bunch of different cities that have growth centers. They have a highway that goes through the growth center, or, there's things that according to the criteria should make it not quite applicable, or they're like, well, yours is too big. And that was the case with Totem Lake. They told Kirkland, yours is too big, it needs to be smaller. But they were asking for an exception. And so long story short, I guess, is that we granted that exception. I had actually moved to accept their list of, they had an attachment with all of the regional growth centers that they wanted to accept. And then with the exception of Totem Lake, just because it's shown to be so successful. It's a very successful growth center. I think even though the highway does go through part of it, you still see people being able to walk, and it works. If there's growth there, it's obviously working. And then I also added to my motion to ask that they come up with some kind of formal process for exceptions, because I never really like going case by case. It's like there should be a process so that if others are having difficulty, or there's a flag for when criteria may be the problem, not the growth center. If several of them had size or shape that were kind of off. So that kind of seems like maybe that we need to keep an eye on that as they evaluate that. Totally understand the need for criteria, but sometimes not everything works on paper, right? I've participated in several ride-alongs with Duval PD officers, and I'm learning so much. It's a lot of fun, too, I'm not gonna lie. So it's been a lot of fun. I have a couple more coming up, so looking forward to those as well. I attended March of the Vegetables. I'm super grateful for all the organizers. Did anyone else go? Were you able to go down there? No? Okay. It's a lot of fun if you haven't. And I was really thankful that it was expanded to the depot parking lot. So last year it was just down in the depot park and it was super cramped. And so this year they expanded up into the parking lot and it was much easier to get around. And I heard that feedback actually from a lot of people during the event, that they appreciated how much easier it was to navigate. And then I also attended the Snow Valley Sparkle Party in Carnation, which was their celebration of their 3rd year as an organization. And that was a lot of fun. They do a lot of great work in the Valley, so I'm just grateful for them. I held another mayor meetup. This time it was at Grateful Bread. City Administrator McNabb was there with me. We had several participants. It was right midday lunchtime at Grateful Bread, so I was curious if I'd get foot traffic, and we did. Had a really nice flow of people sitting down, and you'll see someone was interested in a future fundraising event for multiple sclerosis. There was interest in the future municipal campus, as well as the budget process, and just a lot of engaged residents and thoughtful dialogue. So that was a fun one. I attended the Inspire Breakfast, which is something that Encompass Northwest does at Snoqualmie Casino Hotel. It was a very well. Did you go also or no?
Not that one.
We were at the housing one then, because I saw your name at one of them. Okay, I'll get to that one then.
Oh,
Yeah. So, they are just a wonderful organization that does so much. I mean, they really have. To me, it's essential work, and they had a bunch of very personal stories about their role in different families and how they helped their kids through some really hard circumstances. Attended SVGA, which is Snoqualmie Valley Governance Association. This one was in Snoqualmie, and I know Councilmember Wiggins was there, as well as our city administrator. Let's see, Snow Valley Pride spoke, and also Nella Cumming from Encompass. She actually didn't speak about Encompass, but she spoke about all the challenges in the human services sector right now, that it's a very, I don't want to say broken system, but I mean, sort of it is. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of things that don't work and they're all connected. And then also I attended the city's all staff training day, which was a lot of fun. It's just fun to get together with everyone and hear all the presentations that you did. I know that was a lot of work to put all that together. So thank you for doing that, and had some fun art projects that they did afterwards too. And I loved the council retreat. That was really great. I think we had a lot of productive discussions and got through a lot. I know it was a long day, and I really appreciate everyone taking a day out of their weekend to do that. Let's see. So I attended, which I know Councilmember Olin did as well, the Housing Development Consortium celebration. So the King County Executive, the Seattle Mayor, and also the Executive Director of HDC were among the speakers for that event. It was extremely well attended. It was at the Seattle Convention Center, and it was a very full ballroom. And then also just regarding McCormick Park, when I don't know if you have something probably in your update about that at all, or no? So just to touch lightly, as you know, McCormick Park, we had to close it. It is back open now. There's some temporary fencing up. So just in the meantime, I've met with Director Laniszewski and our city administrator to just talk about next steps. And I'm just reaching out to like state and county electeds to make sure they know that it's happening, so that when we figure out what we need and we come asking, they won't be shocked that they know it's coming. So we'll keep you apprised of like what we figure out and where we go from there. And then the last couple, I just attended the Easter egg hunt at Doherty Farmstead with my family, and it was super fun. Beautiful day, and just lots of staff from the city and the historical society, and I loved how everyone worked together to make that happen. And then just this morning had the SCA North Mayor's meeting, and we mainly talked about the update from the King County Transportation District. There were some general city updates too. So I'm not going to go into depth on it. And if anyone wants to talk offline about it, it's really interesting. So they have not voted on it yet. I signed on, I created a letter for Snoqualmie Valley cities and got everyone to sign on, just supporting SCA's position of asking for a pass-through. If they're going to pass the sales tax, that some percentage, we threw out 25% would come to cities directly. And I think especially for Snoqualmie Valley cities trying to get the recognition that we serve an incredible amount of unincorporated King County residents, and so do a lot of other cities. But getting that recognition and understanding, I think the hesitation on some of the members of that board to do it is already, it's not enough money. I mean, there's so many King County roads projects, and there's not going to be enough funding from this. So, but I'm going to do some more outreach to our King County council member and try to, I think there's support on some level of pass through. So I think it's just maybe going to be lower than 25%, but we can definitely advocate. So if anyone's interested in more in depth on that, we can talk more offline, because there was quite a bit in that update. And that's the last thing is Duval Days is coming up in June. Historically, usually council maybe sometimes walks in the parade, and so I didn't know if anyone was interested in walking. You don't have to answer now. I know Councilmember Supple loves it.
We always run out of candy.
There's always the last minute run into Family Grocer to get a bag of Smarties or something. But yeah, so if you're interested in walking in the parade, we would just need to know. I'm not sure what the deadline is. I know that parade applications are open currently. So just keep that in mind. And then maybe by the next council meeting, I'll really, really ask like if you'll be available and if you'd like to. So I think we need probably at least 3 people to walk. Otherwise, it's kind of sad trying to hold that banner by yourself. So. All right, that's it for me.
Yes, and we also want to make sure that if we need to notice for them,
Yes.
Yeah.
Any questions for the mayor on her report?
I seem to have one. I go up to Totem Lake quite often, but I was wondering what qualifies as a growth center, because I'm not really familiar with it.
I'd have to pull up all the criteria, but it has to be, so it's a certain level of access to transit. It has to be walkable. They developed a criteria of shops and things like in different services, and along with housing that people were able to, so there's like a size requirement, and there's probably a growth component as well. I'm trying to remember. I can send it to you. I'll look it up later and send it to you.
In Redmond City Council, they voted to approve, it's gone through a number of reviews, but like a redevelopment of Redmond Town Center, which is also built around this transit corridor. It's going to actually potentially look a lot like Totem Lake when it's done, but that's a similar criteria. Like it's got the transit line through it. There's a certain amount of apartments, retail, but I don't remember what.
The idea is more around, it's basically around, not being car dependent, right? Being like, you can live there, you can work there, you can jump on
We
transit.
won't see that here.
No, no, probably not. Yeah, not unless we get, a direct line out here or something.
Did I see, you had a question, Councilmember Wiggins?
Yes, hi. Hey, I just want to commend the mayor on all those things that you did. That was exhaustive. That's amazing. I'm tired just listening to that. So thank you for doing all that. Couple questions. The coffee with the mayor, was there any complaints that you heard? Meet the mayor, coffee with the mayor?
Feedback.
It's a specific word. No, not really. I'm trying to think. The ones I noted were Oh, someone who was relatively new to Duval was worried about, do we have enough youth programs and things like that? So not really a complaint, but they were interested in that. So we told them a lot about the youth programming we do have going, and that there's always an interest for more. So if they have ideas, trying to think, no complaints. Like I know the time before last, someone had mentioned a lot of potholes on a particular street, and we're just in that season, that time of year where we start going out and looking for them, because now we're getting closer to the time you can actually fix them. And yeah, and then someone stopped by right at the end, asking about the voting stuff with council members. So that feedback that you've already heard. And yeah, someone asked about, what's going on with a new city hall or municipal campus, and also what about our budget situation? And so just talked in general terms, and also invited them to the upcoming budget workshop to give us more specific feedback. But yeah, sometimes there are specific complaints about, speeding or mufflers or potholes, but this time it was just more general discussion about city stuff.
Oh, good. Okay. And
Yeah.
the other comment or question I was just wondering is the ride-alongs with our peace officers, is that open to council members as well, chief, or is that mayor only? I'd like to jump in,
Sure.
join you guys.
Want to jump in?
Yeah.
I've been told they like it. They really
National
enjoy
Night Out, you get to do it as well. too,
Okay.
so-
it. Feel good, but-
All right, I might reach out to you, chief.
Careful what you wish for, though. It might be a little
Okay.
scary at night.
All right.
The back seat's always open, right, chief?
You're more than welcome. You're more
All
than
right,
Just have to go really fast down to it.
welcome.
thank you. All right.
Don't we have a national night out with them this year? Or
We do,
have some
in August.
the opportunities?
Yeah.
Fun to get, eat a little food.
Yeah.
First Tuesday in August, yes.
Any other questions? No? Councilmember Hernandez and then Councilmember Olin.
Just a quick notice that you have a guaranteed walker in the parade.
Oh, good.
Happy to do it.
I'm always happy to do it. So I don't want to do it.
Yeah, I'll join too. Yeah.
So that's
Well, it sounds like we'll go ahead and register then.
With regard to the transportation, I'm only asking this because I know we have plenty of time.
Yeah.
With the transportation benefit district, I know that, as you said, some of the folks weren't for the pass-throughs because they need all the money they can to fix the roads they have. But I heard in some of the materials I read, they indicated that they were looking for other options to get money back to the cities. Do you have any idea what that might be if it's not via pass-through? I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
No, I haven't. No, that's good. I didn't hear anything specifically about
Okay.
that. Today, some of the ask, from FCA was asking us, all the North mayors, if we had feedback on or thoughts around some of the specifics they brought up. Some like the criteria for or qualifiers for getting the pass through. So for example, it had been brought up during the KCTD meeting. I can't remember which council member had said something like, well, if a city already has a TPD of their own, then they shouldn't get a pass through at all because they're already addressing it, to which our response is, don't punish cities for already doing the good work, right? And so it was more the ask around what are your thoughts on what would you base the return on, right? Would it be population? Would it be traffic? Would it be, and I did ask, and I have been throwing this out regularly, that there are cities that more heavily serve unincorporated residents or get a lot of pass-through traffic, to which then brought up WashDOT numbers, and I just saw it got sent, and our number's a little low. And I think I remember hearing something about, maybe Director Lanchesky knows something about this, how WashDOT's numbers do they not take Highway 203 into account? Or I had heard something about some of the state highways don't get as high of numbers, or you think you have bad traffic here, but your number is low compared to somewhere else. So anyways, not to put you on the spot, but I don't know if you know how they derive their numbers at all.
As far as their counts,
Mhm.
I think their counts are accounts from what
Yeah, okay.
And that was just the one other thing, because it was obviously discussed PIC meeting as well, is the other part of that was there's the funding pass through, which there were people who advocated for more and for people who,
Yeah.
for less. But the other was, and I think it touched on what the mayor just said in terms of the input into the prioritization, because it's like, you know, we know one of the blocking or constriction points is Novelty Hill Road, you know, and that's like on a 20-year plan, you know, and Mayor Rybold had shared that, you know, they were successful in getting money put in the legislative budget for this year for the roundabout.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, so now we've got to find a way to translate that into the Woodville Duval connection, you know, and get Carnation to advocate for us. But that's the other piece of it, is there's the money part, but also just more local control over what gets prioritized and within the city coalition, because that's a theme that's come up. It came up in the small cities as well as around equity, and sort of it can't all go to the big cities. It can't, because you know the impact sometimes is multiples larger on a smaller city that has a lot of traffic versus a larger city where some of it's false.
Yeah, some of that is, yeah, I agree. I would almost say that is more important than the actual path through, which I kind of don't want to say out loud, but I just did. So because we know best what we would need out here. I think we see this every day. And so, yeah, if anyone asked any of us, we would point out 2 intersections that have issues that we would like to see improvements at. And, you know, if you're looking at a regional map and, you know, you may not expect those intersections are such trouble points for us, but they are. So I think making sure cities have a part or have some part of the process for prioritizing the projects would be really important. Some of the other pushback that I had heard, I wasn't able to watch the video yet for that KCTD meeting, but I guess some of the pushback was, what was it? It was around, so they were saying, that there's not enough money anyways to fund all the projects. And that there's no precedent for sharing sales tax. To which, you know, I'm like, there's a first time for everything. So I mean, there's precedent for sharing levies or having some kind of pass through. And I would say, especially for Duval, I mean, with the parks levy situation, that there might be still a little heartburn there. And so we want to make sure we get our fair share. And you know, that I think the other thing that came up during that meeting that I was told was the opinion of the King County executive started to be expressed, like of their office started to be expressed in that meeting as well. And so one of the council members had said, well, if the executive gets to stay at the table, we need the cities at the table too. So it's trying to balance it all. There's a lot of competing interests. And so there's some interesting deadlines. I think they need to really, they're taking a little break for the next week or so, and then they're going to come back to it. So, I mean, in general, I mean, I think we can all agree that we want to keep pushing for SCA's position points on that to get some kind of pass through. They had several amendments that failed. They did not vote on the 25% pass through amendment. They voted on a 20% that failed 5-4, and they voted on a 12.5% pass through, which failed 5-4. But the votes were almost flipped. So it's hard to know where the agreement is. Like some of the ones that were no's on the 20 were yeses on the 12.5. So I think broadly, there is probably support for some pass through. It's just at what level. And likely some of the ones that voted no on the smaller pass through did so because they wanted a bigger amount that's more meaningful. So anyways, that's all just kind of hearsay and just what is, you know, being discussed broadly just based on observations during the meeting. So but we will see.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then, sorry to add on one more thing, but at the HDC that you were at too, they definitely talked about there's an affordable housing levy coming in King County in the next year. So again, talking about tax competition, and there's a lot going on, and people, they recognize that the frustration with taxes is at an all-time high, and yet there's funding shortages and they're trying to fund things. So I think it's, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's a lot of big stuff coming down the pipeline that'll affect us in some way. So
much of that's the regression, and even at the governor's level, you know, there's been pushback on the income tax. So,
yeah.
Thank you. With that, I will turn it over to City Administrator McNabb for the City Administrator's report.
All right. Next slide. We're going to start with Community and Economic Development Department update. I will give this update, but we'll have an opportunity to turn it over soon. So just a couple updates from planning and building. On the planning side, so you'll see in the planning calendar that the sign code is starting, I guess I'll use the word to be activated as a real thing that we're going to look at for adoption. So it's been sent for its 60-day review at the Department of Commerce. SEPA will be issued next week. The other thing with the sign code is if you look at the planning calendar, we're going to, it's under final review with the staff right now. Staff has spent a lot of time on it, so that'll happen in the next few weeks. It'll go to planning commission and to council. But we have a lot of interested parties in the sign code. And so what we've talked about in the council agenda planning meeting between Mayor Pro Tem Mayor and I is taking time in Cal for maybe a half an hour small workshop, holding it up in the front area so it doesn't seem like part of the council meeting, and having it be for specific groups that have high stakes interest in the sign code. So for instance, realtors, I've already received an email about a month ago from a realtor group that looked at our planning calendar and said, I see you're doing the sign code. Can I have an early draft? The response was no, planning commission and council get to see the first draft of new code. But we do know that realtors will have a vested interest in our regulation of the sign code. So having a half an hour workshop to talk just to realtors about their issues. Potentially at the next meeting of Cal, inviting nonprofits to talk about banners. This will have a significant impact on overhead banners and who can post banners and who will not be allowed to under the new content neutral banner policy. So trying to think about those groups that have a vested interest in making sure that we offer them an opportunity to hear their voice before we get too far down into the adoption process. So you'll see those in the planning calendar coming up. So the plan will be for you all to begin seeing this also in May. So lots of code work ahead. Permit processing, we already talked about, so that'll be at your next council meeting. And then just wanted to give you an update. Acres of Diamond has submitted their second round of review. And so we'll start seeing the process for their site plan adoption, and then they'll go forward to the hearing examiner as we get closer to approving their expansion project. On the building side, so Main Street Development, which is the area kind of across from Safeway on the Duval Village extension. So their clear and grade has been submitted for a second round of review. So we're getting closer to seeing that be developed. If you recall, council approved a 1-year extension of their project, and they've taken that extension really seriously and have worked really hard to get everything ready to develop that site. In fact, I would say their frustration with how slow some of our processes signals to me that they want to move much faster than our review had caught up to them. So that's good. It's good news. They're very energized. The Baton Creek building permits have been submitted. They need some work. So we're going to continue to review those, but you'll start seeing some development out there. But yeah, their building permits are not in the shape that we would hope. So in case council hears anything, we're still working through that development.
Oh, project.
Yeah, it's been a long project. What was that?
Career.
Yeah. And then finally, the Skylit Ridge East building permits continue to be submitted. So that's developing out here in the city. So I'm going to pause there. Any questions for building or planning?
City Administrator, can you please remind me where Skylit Ridge East is located?
I would love to, but I'm going to pass it over to Director Lynch.
It's about 2 blocks east of 3rd along 143rd. So Thomas Nolf is Skylit Phase 1, which is right on the corner behind Toll Brothers on 143rd and 3rd place.
Oh,
Or
okay.
143rd place and 3rd. And Skylit Ridge is just the next one east that lines up with Rio Vista back on 143rd place.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Because when we get pre-applications, they're not real, in that, you know, they go through multiple rounds of review before they officially get submitted. I will say we've gotten quite a few inquiries and several pre-application submittals recently for development activity in the city. So as those become real, we'll be sure to bring them to council just so you all are aware of what is getting submitted. But there seems to be, at least in the last few weeks, some interest in developing some different properties throughout the city.
Well, this is just a suggestion. Maybe you could submit a map. I know we have maps of the area, you know, you could put a map up with the skylight ridge highlighted or something like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
So that,
That will benefit me too, because these names don't mean much to me.
it's really random. but
Yeah.
it's a street name.
Well, and Towns is now Summerview, and yeah, so yes, we will be happy to do that moving forward.
Councilmember Owens?
Are these consistent with Skylight, for example? Are these consistent with the new zoning that is gonna be in the comprehensive plan or the old, what it has been so far? The old, okay.
Old zoning, so they vested under the old zoning.
Is that gonna run us into trouble?
No.
Okay.
Because the new numbers, we couldn't count existing development for the new numbers.
Okay,
So it's future looking.
okay.
Um,
Yeah,
yes,
and just for fun, so like Skylit Ridge, that was platted in 2018.
Okay.
So like this is between pre-app, plat approval, commercial construction drawings, construction and final plat. I mean, it's a 5-year process. Normally,
How much land is still undeveloped that fits into that category?
vested but not built.
Kind of in process, yeah.
I don't think we have many
Not in.
actually vested in process. We have some pre-apps, but you don't vest a pre-app.
We do, we have a couple.
And then it sort of
Summer
tapered down.
Yeah, so we have some that are in Priya that haven't vested yet, who have. I'm gonna use this word, I don't think the word is absolutely correct, who are. Going quickly because they don't want to vest under new zoning. So we have, I would say, 2 or 3 of those right now, who know that zoning changes are coming and are working on their stuff. I'm not gonna use the word rush, but they're working speedily.
There's an incentive.
Okay.
But yeah, very few.
But yeah, no. Just as a highlight, because I have a little bit of time. The next meeting is the 10% annexation petition decision. We must make a decision at the next meeting by state statute. So part of that conversation, and it's not a formal hearing, it's just council saying, yes, we can move forward with exploring a 60% petition for the annexation area. But we are going to be faced with a zoning conundrum. So more to come on that. Right now that space is pre-zoned to R4. I don't know that it serves the city's interest to continue to have that pre-zoned to R4 for future land use development. So kind of put a pin in that because we'll have to make some decisions about that, not necessarily next week, but in the future about what we do with that space for future zoning.
And we're not committed to annex it into the city, but we do have to make a decision.
You have to make a decision about whether or not you want to see more.
Yeah.
All right, next slide. I will hand it off to Director Laniszewski.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, citizens. There's a couple back here. Steve Laniszewski, Public Works. So MOC design is underway. We're working diligently. Should have a meeting next week on some kind of renderings after some space analysis after staff interviews with the consultant. Working on budget, open house images and games. I don't know what we're gonna call them games, but exercises. Birthday is the 18th. So save the date, good weather, makes it easier down there. Flower baskets are in process. Everybody loves their flower baskets on Main Street, so in process, and the high school horticulture class is building them again. Let's see. And then Barb when we hired Barb as full-time facilities and custodial, we were offsetting expenses that were contracted out. So we're getting much more value for our dollar spend now. So on top of cleaning her current, and she always has projects, but her current project, she's painting the interior of the lab at the treatment plant, all exterior structure window cleaning and gutter cleaning is in her after regular work. Park. So the batting cage is all up. We just have to work on hanging the nets with our friends at Little League. And picture we've had a couple of accidents lately. That was fresh this morning on Cherry Valley Road before 4 a.m. So police reported that, but one of our crew lead moms goes to work early and she let him know, like, hey, you got a mess to clean up when you get to work. But yeah, they just plowed. There were 2 trees there and 2 signs, and they are gone. So that's kind of exciting. And then, so that's right, Cherry Valley Elementary. Everybody knows who that is, where the Easter egg hunt was. So, and then next slide. This was a video, so we'll see if we can get it to run. I hope you can hear the audio too, because it's dynamite. So listen closely for the rattle of metal.
Oh, I'm muted down here. Hang on.
I didn't try to make it hard. Like I told John, it's just an MP4 player, but how this works on this system here is a little wonky.
Too much technology for my laptop.
Yeah. I don't think the laptop as much as it is this room system. You know, hiding somewhere.
I don't think it's gonna connect for audio.
Oh, well,
because-
we can get the video and it's fine.
Oh, yes. It would echo.
But can you show the video?
Is it not? Oh, yes, sorry. No.
It's so hard to make it easy, but alas, I failed.
So I'll start it over. Okay. Do you see it?
Oh,
It's kind of a little loud.
Yeah,
That's how
in
you
the top
got it.
left corner of the screen.
You got it approved that.
It's real, it didn't turn out. So that was on the corner of Main Street.
Oh, it's a fire hydrant.
That was a landscape island with a fire hydrant that was knocked clean off by the driver, and then they drove off. Very little damage if you're looking for a tough car. Apparently the Mazda CX-5 series is pretty hardy. So we don't have a plate from our videos, but we do have a couple of videos. So, yeah, those are the other incidentals the crew get to work on outside of regular work that gets thrown over their plate. So the fire hydrant is put back and has been repaired.
Play the sound of mine.
Yeah, the sound was great. You can hear because there's nothing else going on. You can hear the car take off and then the fire hydrant roll to a stop. You know, ductile iron metal on concrete sounds really good. So yeah, it was amazing. I cannot believe the car just gracefully drove on. Thank you. And I think that's it for my slides.
He was going to Australia. It's a city hall.
Yeah, any questions? Camera on the corner of City Hall looking out east.
any questions for the Public Works Department?
Oh, thank you.
All right, moving on to the city clerk's update.
Good afternoon, council, mayor, members of the community, Botero City Clerk. So following up on one of the discussions during the council retreat, council member Kozlowski, you should be getting an email from East Side Transportation Committee regarding your assignment. That is part of King County Metro. So you should be all set with that. Let me know if they give you any grief, and I'll get in touch with them. I reached out to K4C, waiting to hear back. I know that one of the issues was whether this group was defunct. So by the lack of sound, sounds like it, but I mean, hope springs eternal. We shall see. Councilmember Wiggins is set for the Snoqualmie Valley Economic Alliance, and we're still waiting on information from the Washington State Tree Equity Collaborative and the Municipal Solid Waste Advisory Council.
for which Councilmember Olin volunteered. As soon as I get more information, I'll provide it to council, and Mayor Pro Tem already touched on this, but please don't forget to pass any notes or comments that you have related to the proposed council procedures by 4 p.m. on April 14th, so that we can incorporate it and make it part of the packet for April. Thank you very much.
Questions for the clerk? All right, so I just have a few updates tonight. So soliciting 2 council members to serve on the Economic Development and Tourism Grant Committee alongside Councilmember Schaefer. So the mayor was part of that committee last year, as was former Councilmember Naplin. So we need to replace both of those appointments to the subcommittee. And so kind of similar to the Human Services grant, this is to score the proposals. We received 4 this year, Duval Foundation for the Arts, Polanco Sports Foundation, YMCA of Snohomish County, who runs our summer camp down in Depot Park and March to the Vegetables. Because I have a little time, I'm going to just offer an opinion here. We had worked really hard to advertise to our nonprofits in the community that if you need city staff, if you want fee waivers or banner waivers or any kind of city support, please put in a grant application so that we can track our in-kind. Despite all that messaging, we got no requests documenting the in-kind. So at some point in the future, as we think about the budget and cost recovery, I think we're going to have a conversation about what in-kind looks like for some of the support that we give. The Duval Foundation for the Arts does have a little aspect of that in their request for sandblast support. But some of the other groups that do a lot of work in the city did not put in grant applications this year, either for in-kind or for support. So we have a pretty limited pool. So we'll need a couple council members to help in scoring these and making a recommendation to full council for support. As a reminder, we have no budget for economic development and tourism grants, so this would be a budget adjustment that council decides to make to support any of these requests.
So just to echo something you said there, because there's a couple of overlaps in terms of some of the grants we took in for the others, but I think the other part is just to put a point on that is, we talked about the predictability as well. And so we get a lot of these last minute requests, but I think part of, being fiscal stewards is being able to plan for these things early. So I just wanted to put sort of a plug. I appreciate the outreach that staff did do. I think there's going to be a little bit of that tough love conversation around some of these, particularly as the budget gets tight, but also just like that we have a process and we promote the process and you need to adhere to the process. I mean, that we had a little bit of that discussion in our human services grants as well as there's an intake and how if you don't provide all the information, we can only work with what you provide. So, but again, I wanted to appreciate the outreach you did. And I think we've been able to be nimble as a small city, but it's going to get increasingly difficult.
Yeah, and this particularly falls on Rita, our community events and communications manager. So when we open these, we open them to anticipate the staff support that our nonprofits are going to ask of the city so that we can also program at the same time we're programming our own work. And this year, we are doubling the offerings that the city is providing to the community for free. So we're having 5 outdoor movies, summer stage, where we've already done 2 contracts for programming at the new stage. We're having a mariachi night and a free puppet show, game night, a lot of which we got for free with grants, but that doesn't mean staffing them and doing the work is free in staff costs. So all of that is happening at the city level, and it is very hard for us to then intake a last minute request for substantial staff report, whether that's Public Works or Rita, to help program things that we aren't necessarily anticipating. So there's also a staffing component to it, as well as just tracking the in-kind that the city gives to support outside events.
Councilmember Hernandez?
What would be the time budget for one of the council members on that economic development tourism grant committee? Because I am interested in that.
Maybe 2 hours of time at most.
That wasn't too bad.
Okay.
One meeting usually, right?
Yeah, one morning or afternoon meeting.
Given that I've worked with two of these and I know Rita as well, Director Moreno, I'm happy to volunteer for that.
Fantastic. Any other tenders? Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Councilmember Wiggins?
Yeah, if you're looking for another volunteer, I'm happy to lend my time. I heard 2 hours. Is that a week? Is that a month? Is that a quarter? But
Oh,
I'm
no,
happy.
that's single.
One time.
One single meeting.
Oh. Yeah, I'm happy if I can zoom in. I might be traveling, but I'm happy to offer my time if I can zoom into a discussion. Yeah.
So we probably can't have 4 on the committee because of quorum. So, I'll connect to all of you and, send an email after the meeting. Okay,
I'm sorry.
but-
I didn't know if you needed another one. If you already got your volunteers, I missed it. I apologize. So I thought you were still needing one more.
Okay, Councilmember Wiggins, hold that, because I have another opportunity for you. So in the council packet, you have, the request for proposals for city attorney services. So, we need to go out, for city attorney services. It's normally scheduled work. It's not at all reflective of our level of satisfaction with Ogden Murphy. We have a contract. There's a 1-year extension and we're at the end of that term. So we need to go out for RFP for city attorney services. So I am looking for council members who are interested in being on the interview team. Because once we get proposals, we'll then have the mayor, myself, and council members interview law firms to provide the city attorney services. That'll be this summer. So we have to have a new contract signed. If you look at the RFP, I backed it out. I think the interviews happen in May for the proposals.
And I'm happy I enjoyed doing it. Well, I don't think I interviewed you, but some other folks as well. It's a nice process, to get to know some people. So I'm happy to interview or in addition, if that's something Councilmember Wiggins would be interested in as well, but.
If I can
Not
speak.
to put you on the spot.
Yes.
Councilmember Wiggins.
Oh, yes. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm happy to lend a hand, but this is an area that I'm not super familiar with since I'm new to the council. So I haven't really had a lot of experience, of course, seeing the services that our city attorney has been doing for our city and where there may have been some opportunities. Just wanted to throw that out there. So I would probably need some guidance where I can help. Yeah.
I don't know if there's anyone else. I don't know how many volunteers. you're
3,
looking for.
we'll stick with the same quorum rules. If there's anybody else who wants to be on that interview panel. And I don't know what the time investment is. So I don't know how many proposals we're going to receive. There aren't a ton of firms that do municipal city attorney services. Maybe probably 5, but who knows? Okay, perfect. So I have for economic development and tourism. So Schaefer.
And then he's for sure want to.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, perfect. And then I think, my last point is a reminder for the budget workshop. It's already been noticed, so everybody who can come, please do. We've already noticed it. We might have one. Okay. And then next slide. So our University of Washington students, our Evans School Capstone Project, are in the midst of doing focus groups this week to study not the need for a municipal campus, but more of what the community would like to see should we build a municipal campus. The capstone project that I put in for the University of Washington was building what matters was the title of the project. Amenities that build community connection and a sense of welcoming. So they will have a coffee and community workshop here on the 25th in the morning. So they did a staff focus group. We sent emails to our business community and a community group, focus group. That's all happening this week. And I think the community focus group is next week. Groups of 5 and 7. And then I think they'll conclude their project potentially with a survey. We're still working out what a survey might look like. And then they will come to council to talk about their work and provide kind of a high level overview of what their capstone was and what they learned. So we might have things to learn from them through their capstone project. And also just a nice way to get back to the community a little bit where we can offer opportunities to mentor and to do that kind of study work for the University of Washington. It's always a nice thing to do.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Who designed the flyer? Was that you or was that the students?
It was a combination of the students and Rita and John.
Whoever all caps the A
Yeah.
did you all like that's awesome. Like that really counts. Who was it? And John's like nodding you like that too. No, it wasn't you. Whoever made that call was like that was really good. That's really cool.
Keeping you up making that fish.
Yeah, it was really, very well done. I think Rita lent a hand to kind of bring their ideas into a flyer that we could publish. At the bottom, it did initially say childcare was being provided, but that childcare is me. And so I asked them to change it to a supervised craft table because I'm not really prepared to offer infant and toddler childcare.
Should do that at the budget workshop. It's gonna be in the corner.
Long time, but I've done that work. And then our holy event was rescheduled also for the 25th. So excited that we were able to reschedule that from its rain/snow out. And with that, happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, is there an update on the comprehensive plan review that's for growth management now?
Yeah. So other than just kind of crossing off the code work that needs to be done, Oscar filed our 90-day extension at the end of March, because every 90 days we have to ask for an extension. And so the Attorney General and Commerce approved our 90-day extension. As a reminder, that's predicated on us showing that design standards, zoning, permit processing, unit lot subdivision are all moving forward. So every 90 days I have to show, oh, this is a planning commission, it's in draft, it's a council. If we stop that work, Commerce and the State Attorney General's office might have a different idea about whether they decline to give us an extension. Our extension request is predicated on getting that work done. So I think we're good for the next 90 days because we have the zoning changes coming. We're passing permit processing, hopefully. The design standards work is ongoing. We'll have a draft soon, and unit lot subdivision is also coming to council soon. And then we'll end the year with re-adopting the comprehensive plan with changes.
Oh, the end of the year.
Thank you. So we've got about 10 minutes for council reports. Do we have any council reports? Councilmember Olson?
I had one just related to the HDC. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to make a couple comments. I also attended the Housing Development Podium event, and a couple things stood out to me. I mean, one, I'll just kind of recap. I mean, they're both county executive Sahila and Mayor Wilson really talked about being aggressive in moving faster on housing policy and incorporating AI into their use of support work, which I thought was interesting. They both I think some of them, but also just as I walked around the room and talked to some of the vendors that were there, some of the nonprofits that were there, they talked a lot about mixed income housing models as opposed to just these models where you have you have a developer coming in and building, some houses or some buildings that are going to be, 100% or plus AMI, and we'll have 20% of those be less than that. And I thought that was interesting. And they talked about one project which I thought was really interesting, and this was elsewhere, and so it would take some creativity because I think it was done on publicly owned land. So it's an interesting incentive model, but I just say it for kind of future thought about incentives. But so, it was mixed use development, and it started, so the lower ground was, ground floor was commercial. And then they were building, on top of that, or just in the vicinity, they were building mixed use models in the area. But one of the struggles that folks have when they build those models out is sometimes it's hard to get, whether it's retail or other commercial tenants in, if you don't actually have, the residents in yet, right? Because retail wants to know they can sell it folks, or the other way around, right? Sometimes you don't get the lower income residents because they don't have the services yet that you expect the commercial tenants to bring in. And so what they did was they allowed for they made commitments to the commercial tenants that their rent would be prorated. This again, it was public land, right? But the rent would be prorated based on the occupancy of the residential tenants. Right. And I had never heard of that before. And so, once you had 10% occupancy, now you were paying 10% of the rent. And, I think it probably watermarked. And so, if residency went down, the rents went back down. But it kind of incentivized both tenants and the commercial tenants and the residential tenants both to build occupancy together. So I thought that was a really interesting model. I heard that from the executive director of a nonprofit, which was called House Our Neighbors. We exchange contact information. I shared that with Administrator McNabb, and so we have that contact if you want to reach back out to them. And the other thing I learned, and staff probably already knows this because they already know everything before I do, but that there's also state funding opportunities, and so Commerce has money that they will give you for building affordable housing projects as long as things are aligned the right way. I didn't know that, so I didn't know that money was available to us. So some of that potentially could be used in the right conditions for incentives. So that's what I wanted to share.
Other reports? There are two brief updates. The first one was just sort of a broader conversation on the PIC. They've been evolving the PIC meetings. Adam, has sort of been listening, and the upcoming meeting tomorrow is in person. We were sort of going back and forth about that. It's like great to be in person, but it means driving down the redneck, Russia. So not ideal. But this year they've started to put together these hot sheets and then sort of the agenda. I think they share them with the mayor and the city administrator. The intent is to get feedback from council so that I can go in informed. The timing has not been ideal, and Robert sort of tweaked the agenda today. So, even the last minute it's changed, but I just wanted to sort of ask staff, like, the best way. I'm assuming I can send out a one-way communication but just, use this forum to say, not necessarily to sort of respond back or I'll respond directly to me so that we don't create a zero meeting, but it would love to get some additional council input in terms of being able to speak for the city more broadly, based on versus the things we discuss in here. The other meeting that did take place, which we talked about at the retreat, is the first meeting of the small city working group, which Cynthia was also there representing staff, and it was a good hearty discussion. It had good representation. It was the initial introductions because we hadn't had a chance to meet, but the staff had met previously. There were a couple things, that we went through, the recommendations that were made, added to it. Probably talked a little too much during the meeting, but it was a good conversation. And the output of that was, again, some of the same challenges that all the cities have. One of the things I put forward is, how do we differentiate between similar to the conversation around the growth zones, in terms of what should be the criteria for defining a small city. And not all small cities are the same because, Duval has unique challenges being geographically isolated, not contiguous. river access, but there's other, small, medium-sized cities that have different challenges or the same challenges around economic growth. So, AJ took a whole bunch of actions and notes, and she was gonna hand those over to staff. I think staff was gonna then meet some more to sort of work through and come back with some recommendations. So I think unfortunately, a lot of the work is sort of the handoff and we get to take actions, but I did wanna, thank Cynthia for, City Administrator McNabb for participating. But also, I didn't realize that this is additional work, on her plate. So yeah, if you have something to add.
Yeah, I did end up being the lead on the project. So Councilmember Mercer had this really good idea of kind of using the wetlands framework of what is a wetland. There's a whole criteria, it's very complicated. But it's a rubric system of if this, then X, And so taking kind of that rubric system and applying it to what makes a small city is work that AJ and I have been talking back and forth. I sent her the wetlands rubric and I was like, okay, not this.
They don't have to have a
Which
file
is
of
a
this.
17-page instruction manual on how to fill out the rubric, but a rubric of, are you, non-contiguous? What is your, population isn't the only determining factor of what is a small city for the purposes of advocacy. So, yes, I did offer to work with staff and kind of lead the initiative to create that rubric that we'll bring back to the electeds small group workshop.
But I just wanted to share it was a good conversation starting point. And I think hopefully some of the outputs of that, in addition to sharing information, which is always super useful, we talk about and City Administrator McNabb has been good about sort of pushing back on council a little bit, is that we need to be proactive. We can't come when we need to make these decisions and ask not to, have the same rules apply to us. So whether it's at the legislative level or even with King County, we need to have those conversations early, and the more tools that we can have and have data-driven conversations, they sort of help. So, I think everyone was really engaged and we're kind of looking forward to sort of seeing what the next steps are for that. So that was my sharing and gives us about 5 minutes, 6 minutes for a break before 7. So if there's no questions for me or for anyone, I'll adjourn the committee of the whole at 6:54 p.m.
I can see it.
Call to order the city council meeting at 7:02. Can you please rise to the flag? Got you afraid that done. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, could you take the roll?
Mayor McHenry.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mercer.
Here.
Councilmember Olin.
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer. Councilmember Kozlowski.
Here.
Councilmember Supple.
Here.
Councilmember Wiggins.
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? Seeing, hearing none, does anyone want to make a motion to adopt tonight's council agenda?
So, second.
Okay, been moved and seconded to adopt tonight's council agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion passes. Next up, we have proclamation. And then I just wanted to check with our clerk, did we have anyone accepting any of these tonight?
For library week.
For library week, we do? Okay. All right. So first we have Passover. Whereas Passover, known as Pesach, is a sacred and enduring observance in the Jewish tradition, commemorating the journey from bondage to freedom and the enduring power of faith, resilience, and hope. And whereas the story of Passover reminds us that even in times of hardship and uncertainty, the human spirit is capable of perseverance, courage, and renewal. And whereas families and communities gather around the Seder table to share in ritual, reflection, and storytelling, passing down traditions that honor memory, identity, and the pursuit of justice. And whereas the themes of liberation, compassion, and dignity found within Passover resonate deeply across all cultures and faiths, inspiring us to work toward a more just, inclusive, and understanding world. And whereas the city of Duval is strengthened by the diversity of its residents and is enriched by the traditions, histories, and contributions of the Jewish community. And whereas this season invites all people to reflect on the meaning of freedom in their own lives and to extend kindness, empathy, and solidarity to others. Now, therefore, I, Amy McHenry, Mayor of the City of Duval, hereby proclaim the observance of Passover in the City of Duval, and I encourage all residents to recognize and honor its profound message of liberation, renewal, and hope. May this season bring peace to all who celebrate, inspire reflection in our community, and remind us that the pursuit of freedom and justice is a shared and timeless endeavor. And then next up, we have Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Whereas sexual assault is pervasive, every 68 seconds, someone is sexually assaulted in the United States. And whereas sexual violence impacts everyone, anyone can be a victim of sexual violence, and people who commit sexual abuse, assault, and harassment exist in all of our communities. This underscores why it's important for all of us to care about sexual violence and take steps to promote the safety and well-being of others. And whereas Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, people living in poverty, LGBTQIA+ people, elders, people with disabilities, and others who have been historically oppressed are disproportionately affected by sexual violence in significant and complex ways. And whereas sexual assault is among the most underreported crimes for many reasons, but survivors who are already most marginalized face additional barriers to reporting, such as language, immigration status, or disability. And whereas ending sexual violence requires us to address racism, sexism, and all forms of oppression that contribute to the perpetration of sexual assault. And whereas sexual violence exists on a continuum of behavior that includes racist, sexist, transphobic, homophobic, ableist, or other hate speech. This ranges from rape jokes to verbal harassment to physical assaults. And whereas survivors of sexual assault may never forget their victimization, but they can heal with support from family, friends, and their communities. Sexual assault programs across King County and Washington State offer free and confidential support, advocacy, information, and resources to survivors. And whereas by working together as a community, we can alleviate the trauma of sexual violence by ensuring supportive resources are available to all survivors, while standing up to and actively disrupting harmful attitudes and behaviors that contribute to sexual violence. Now, therefore, I, Amy McHenry, Mayor of the City of Duval, along with the Duval City Council, join advocates and communities throughout King County in taking action to prevent sexual violence by standing with survivors and proclaiming April 2026 as Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month. In the City of Duval, I encourage all residents to join forces and commit to a safer future for all children, young people, adults, and families in our community. And then next up, we have Library Week, and we have some people here to accept that. So if you're here for the Library Week proclamation, feel free to come up and join me up at the podium. Hi. Hi there. Hi. All right, perfect. Okay, and did you want to introduce yourselves? Go ahead, starting with you.
Hi, I'm Denise McCollum, Regional Manager of Duval. It's one of the libraries, and I have two of our library board members here with me tonight. I'm Julia Rude, a Duval Library Board member.
And
Matthew, also on the board.
thanks for joining us tonight. Whereas libraries are vital institutions that serve as gateways to knowledge, innovation, and lifelong learning, enriching the lives of individuals and strengthening the fabric of our community. And whereas National Library Week provides an opportunity to recognize and celebrate the essential role libraries and library professionals play in promoting literacy, intellectual freedom, and equitable access to information for all. And whereas the King County Library System continues to provide exceptional resources, programs, and services to the residents of Duval, fostering education, creativity, and connection among people of all ages and backgrounds. And whereas the Duval Library Board has demonstrated outstanding dedication and leadership in supporting the vision and growth of library services in our community, advocating for access, inclusion, and the continued evolution of library spaces as hubs of civic engagement. And whereas libraries are more than buildings filled with books, they are welcoming spaces where curiosity is nurtured, ideas are exchanged, and community bonds are strengthened. And whereas library staff, volunteers, and advocates work tirelessly to ensure that all residents have access to the tools and opportunities they need to learn, grow, and succeed. Now, therefore, I, Amy McHenry, Mayor of the City of Duval, hereby proclaim April 19th through April 25th, 2026 as Library Week. In the City of Duval, I encourage all residents to visit our wonderful local library, explore its many offerings, meet its great staff members, and recognize the invaluable contributions of our library professionals and volunteers. And we have a copy of this. And council, would you like to come up and take a photo with everybody? Let's see. Yes, we'll. Somebody gets to hold it. There we go. And we can all, Matthew, and come here too.
Yeah.
Council, everybody fill in here. Yeah, find spots. We do this every time. One, two, three. Thank you so much. Thank you. Did you want to say anything? No, you don't have to, but.
This year's theme for Library Week is Find Your Joy at the Library. I just love the theme. So it's
Okay, good. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, that's all right. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you. And nobody's here for Arbor Day. We'll leave this one sitting down. So our last one is Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil, by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Amy McHenry, Mayor of the City of Duval, hereby proclaim April 18th, 2026 as Arbor Day in the City of Duval, and I urge all residents to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all residents to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Also, I encourage community members to participate in our Earth and Arbor Day Festival on April 18th at Depot Park. I extend my heartfelt thanks to the staff members putting this event together for our community. All right. So next up, we have comments from the audience. During the designated public commentary period at City Council meetings, individuals are allotted 3 minutes to speak, while representatives of organizations may address the council for up to 5 minutes. Before presenting, kindly disclose your full name and city of residence. Each speaker and all remarks shall be addressed to the city council as a body and not to individual council, members of the council or staff. The city strongly advises submitting verbal comments in writing to expedite subsequent correspondence. Written comments must be received by the city clerk's office by noon on the meeting day, addressed to P.O. Box 1300, Duval, Washington 98019, or deposited at the City Hall drop box located at 15535 Main Street Northeast, or by email. Please be aware that the City Council, its boards, and its commissions accept public comments only from in-person attendees at the meeting. The council does not accept handouts or printed material during public commentary sessions. Information intended for the mayor or the city council shall be directed to the city clerk, who will disseminate it following the submitter's instructions. Upon receipt, the city clerk will receive written public comments and subsequently furnish them to the city council or the relevant board or commission. However, it's important to note that written comments will not be orally presented during the council or applicable board or commission meetings. Any written comments received after the noon deadline for written comments will be shared with the council at the next council meeting as a part of the city clerk's report. And we have some people signed up. Let's see. So first up, we have Elijah Vincent. Did Kate Vincent want to speak tonight? You were first on the list, but you had a question mark. So
I'll defer to you.
okay, so go ahead, Elijah. And I see that you're representing Snow Valley Transit Riders Coalition, so you would have up to 5 minutes to speak if you'd like.
You want to hit this button or no?
Oh, no, that's just a speaker, yeah.
Hello, my name is Elijah. I am with the Snoqualmie Valley Transit Riders Coalition. I'm here today. I did submit a official proposal to the clerk. I don't know if y'all got that, but I am here to speak on behalf of my proposal about the feasibility study about Sound Transit. It does have a lot to do with the Growth Management Act in Washington State. I think if we pass this through and actually join Sound Transit, it will show the state that we are actively trying to improve public transit, as we are a little bit underserved in that area. And I also believe that I don't know the official RCW law, but I did research in that law, and it did say to go to the city, then it would go to a public vote if that was approved, and then it would go to Sound Transit. And it's really important because Sound Transit does not only do transit, but also road improvements with transit. So if the bus is going through Main Street or Northeast Richardson Street, it could help a lot with that. And I also think it would be important, very actually important to note that there are billions of dollars into that fund that we could use for the city, and I will yield my time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have, let's see, we have Katrina, is it Dawn? Doan. And then I see that Katrina, Ashleen, and Sandy Duval are all under Duval Civic Club. So just, I believe you would get one collective 5 minutes for that one organization. So if you both potentially want to speak, then yeah, perfect. You're up at the same time. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Katrina Doan. I'm actually from Tukwila, so I love coming up to Duval. It's one of my favorite places. And I'm here on behalf of the Duval Civic Club, and I want to talk again. I was here a couple of years ago, but I want to present some new information, and I want to ask you to reconsider the vote that was taken banning fireworks for the city of Duval. The city of Duval has been one of the models of a city civic club and a partnership with fireworks in helping the community. I'm the former area manager of TNT Fireworks. I'm a retired school teacher who also got into the fireworks industry on the side. And after I retired, I got to work with these wonderful groups. And the partnership in Duval is by far the model of how this should work with the community. And I've shared it regionally. I've shared it all over. Most fireworks stands, for those of you who don't know, are run by a nonprofit group to raise money to keep doing the good work they're doing in the community. And Duval does an amazing job. I don't know if you know, your fireworks sales are the #2 in the entire Pacific Northwest region, from Canada down to the King Pierce County line, which is my #2 in this little tiny town. I feel like people have voted with their money. They like their fireworks. And the money that is raised goes straight to the Civic Club, which goes directly to scholarships for students. So that fireworks stand up there is literally impacting lives. $10,000 last year was given to students to help them go to school. That's huge. We'll never know how lives were exactly impacted, but clearly students are getting to go to school because of it. And my favorite statistic is you've had no fireworks fires or issues here. People know how to do them safely. And so I ask you, why would you ban such a partnership? Why take away the money from the Civic Club and take away this 4th of July joy from people who are clearly saying, we want this. We're willing to spend our hard-earned money to celebrate with our families and our neighbors. And also, because I know there's some new people on the council, just some background in the area, we will always have fireworks, whatever the legislation is. We live where there's tribal land. People are going to buy fireworks. And what studies have shown over and over is if they don't have this safe consumer grade ones available, they will go to the places nearby where things that are banned statewide can be purchased. And those things are banned for a reason. They should be banned. But people will buy what is closest. A community up in Skagit County did a study when they were discussing the same question. They found that 75% of the people said, we will buy from the closest location. And they went, oh, that means we can, in essence, control is a strong word, but control what's available to them. And they kept them legal. A couple of quick other stories. The city of Tukwila in 2022 looked at this issue. They've been banned for 25 years. And when presented with the option, it's another option for Duval called a modified ban. Because the ones people complain about, I ask people all the time when they say, oh, I don't like fireworks. Tell me what you hate. I hate the ones that fly around and I'm afraid they're going to catch people's house on fire. Yep, I agree. I hate the ones that go boom and shake my windows. Yep, I don't like those either. Most of those, by the way, are the ones that are the illegal ones. The stand sells nothing that goes boom like that. But you can modify it further and do what's called ground-based fireworks. Nothing flies in the air, nothing goes boom. It's fountains that do the sparkly stuff in front of you, the kid tanks and trucks that you see that sparkle. That's another option. So Tukwila chose that option. And the mayor said, well, we've got 25 years of data that shows that a full ban doesn't work. He said, I owe it to my residents to try something different. So they tried it for a year. Police and fire chief were on board. The city council voted unanimously to try it. After the season, the police and fire chief came back and did a postseason report. And the only word I can use is that they were giddy. They said this was the best 4th of July we have had in 25 years. Lowest number of calls, and they showed the statistics. And the fire chief said, I drove around that night. I saw families having fun safely. Another one of my favorite, because there's an what's that?
30 seconds.
Oh, darn it. Quick story in Oregon, 2 cities side by side, one banned, one didn't. The one that banned, their fireworks problems just went through the roof. The one that didn't stayed calm. The neighboring city, the fire marshal, published this big thing that said, stop banning fireworks. It's making it worse. So I am here to plead with you to rethink your ban. There's a city down in Pierce County that next Tuesday night is taking a ban to repeal their taking a vote to repeal their fireworks ban because they tried it for a couple of years and said, oh no. So I'm asking you to do the same. The ban will go into effect next year. Stop it before it gets there.
Thank you very much. So that's the end of people signed up. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak? Okay, so we will move on. Next up, we have the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion passes. And we took care of all of our scheduled items, the mayor's report, city administrator's report, and council reports in the committee of the whole meeting earlier. So we will move straight on to our first item of new business, Agenda Bill 26-31, updates to the Duval Municipal Code, Chapter 9, utility billing. And this is with Director Laniszewski.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, citizens, Steve Laniszewski, Public Works. This was presented at the last meeting with Larissa Grundell as well as your city administrator. There were no new questions or comments. I do not have anything prepared and here to answer any more questions and or in a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Wiggins.
Yeah, I move to approve Agenda Bill 2631, repealing and replacing Duval's Municipal Code, Title 9.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt this. Is there any discussion?
I did have one question.
With Councilmember Hernandez?
I did have one question, just after looking over some of the work on here. Tenants can actually be impacted by the shutoffs, but don't control the account. Are we doing anything to ensure that they're notified in advance, that they're not caught off guard, especially in a way that's accessible to them, like a direct notice to the resident versus the holder of the account? I know we can give them a duplicate bill for a fee, but that's usually after the tenant's going to find out that their water's been shut off. I just want to know if we have a way to contact the tenant for that.
Door handle.
Something like that.
Out before, on the day before shut off.
Well, there's a mailer of the month before, right?
Yes,
And-
yes.
I think it's a little confusing. Most of our customers aren't always the property owner, they are the tenant.
Okay.
So we try to have that because the alternative exists where you can't get hold of right people,
No.
which is not. And most times owners who do rent prefer it to be to the tenant because they don't want anything to do with it, right? So it's on them then because they're the ones who are collecting accounts for the use.
The accounts are in the owner's name.
Always?
Mhm.
No, that's wrong.
It is, yeah.
Because we only deal with people who live there.
It's a- So it is in the owner's name, but we do have the ability to collect the renter's information. There is the option to do duplicate billing. And we make every attempt, if there's an email address, we make every attempt to contact. And shutoffs happen, after 2 billing cycles of not being paid. So during that time, there is efforts to connect. But like I said, the day before shut off, door hangers go out to be put on the door to notify. So we make every effort to communicate to all of them.
City Administrator McCann? Thank you. So I think it was 2 or 3 summers ago, the finance department also, and one of our finance teams actually got staff award for her work. Redid the process for delinquent accounts where now we have a protocol for calling again, a communication protocol so that folks who were on the verge of having their water shut off got multiple communication points throughout that process. It reduced the amount of shutoffs from in the 20s to 2 on some billing cycles. So it about an 80% change in making sure that we're doing continual communication for anybody who's on the shut off list.
I don't know, Director. Yes, that is correct. Yeah. Our utility specialist spends a lot of manual time picking up the phone, making phone calls, sending emails, communicating as best as we can to make sure that they're aware and they have the opportunity to make payment before the shut off happens, or at least to have an understanding of what's going on. So yeah, lots of effort done.
Thank you.
Other discussion or questions? Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve Agenda Bill 26-31, repealing and replacing Duval Municipal Code Title 9. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion passes. Next up, we have Agenda Bill 26-32, approval of award recipients of the 2026 Human Services Grant. And this is with our city clerk, John Botero, and our deputy clerk, Kelsey McDonald.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Oh, please.
I just want to make a note that for the record, as I serve on the board of directors of Supportive Community for All, I will be recusing myself from discussion or vote on this agenda.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, John Botero, City Clerk. So it was a tough choice this year. We received 12 applications, totaling $90,200. And the committee met on March 30th, and they came with an amount for awards. However, I'll let the committee members speak as to perhaps a proposed amendment to, well, it would need to be a budget amendment because The 7 recipients, the total amount of their awards total 40,000. And there might be one additional recipient for an additional amount of money that will require a budget amendment. But I'll let the committee members speak on this regard.
Is there a committee member that wants to speak first? Councilmember Olin?
Should I do that under amendment or should I just offer discussion now?
So procedurally, we can make the motion. It's first and seconded, then an amendment is proposed, first and seconded, the amendment is discussed, voted on, and if it's adopted, then the amendment becomes part of the main motion.
Quick question on the procedure though, is this something that's going to be potentially adopted tonight, or would it come back for a consent vote at the next meeting?
Ideally, it would be
It would
approved.
be tonight, okay, gotcha. Oh, does somebody want to make a motion then?
Yeah, I move to approve Agenda Bill 2631, approving the Human Services Grant Committee recommended
30,
awards
sorry.
to the organizations outlined in the agenda bill.
32.
Oh, 32, okay. Next, the excess 31.
Oh, yeah, Dan.
30.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Did anyone want to speak? Councilmember Olin, do you want to go ahead?
Okay, so yeah, I guess I'll just raise this as part of discussion and then we can amend it if appropriate. So, you know, it was tough, you know, as City Clerk said, we had a lot of applicants, and when we went through all the service providers, you know, we provided funding for food access for youth, for seniors. There was, it was hard because we had to make a line somewhere and say, okay, at some point we gotta cut this off, and you know, we have limited resources. And it really bothered me because at one point, you know, where we had to draw the line, one of the things that we cut was direct medical services. And so that cut CarePoint Clinic. So CarePoint Clinic, they offered direct care to uninsured or underinsured residents, often under 200% of the federal poverty level. And I mean, that's just, it's a population that doesn't have resources to afford this. What we learned in our follow-up is that, you know, these folks, they do travel to get medical care. They can sometimes get down to Carnation or Fall City or Snoqualmie to get access. So they can get it, but the fact that they are going that far just suggests that there is a barrier to access that locally. So their initial ask in the grant request was $6,000, and that would have covered 3 days of a mobile clinic coming here to Duval for coverage. You know, again, and I think one of the reasons that they scored low is because, again, you know, $6,000 for 3, it's expensive. You know, there's not a huge rate of return. They're not using volunteers, which is a part of our criteria, was, you know, to what degree are they using volunteer services? But it's medical staff, you know, and so there's not a lot of volunteer services for medical staff. And so it's an expensive ask. So anyway, they're requesting $6,000 for 3 days. And so just for sake of also offering some kind of medical care to this very low income community here in Duval, I would love to at least consider as a council, potentially offering, I'm assuming the $2,000, which is a third of what they asked for, $2,000 would allow them to fund 1 clinic a day here in Duval. And we could either reallocate from the $40,000 from one of the other nonprofits, or we could pull that out of the strategic fund. My suggestion would be to pull that out of the strategic fund. So that would be my amendment, but I'll leave that up for discussion first. So that would be my suggestion would be to pull $2,000 out of the strategic fund to fund one of the mobile clinic days, just to add some healthcare for low income residents.
Any other committee members want to speak first before?
I think we need to, is that a formal?
Do I need to use that as a?
Cause then we can discuss
I
the
can do
motion
that.
only,
So-
and then we discuss the overall
Yeah.
proposal.
So we will need to word the amendment as it would be voted on discussion.
So I move to amend the original motion to include CarePoint Clinic in the list of award recipients, so the council can award them $2,000 as part of the 2026 Human Services Grant. I was further
strategic
moved
plan?
that comes out of the.
No, I'll need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved, and could you say that one more time to add the, how much money?
$2,000
For CarePoint Clinic?
for CarePoint Clinic.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to amend the motion to add $2,000 to CarePoint Clinic.
Funded through the strategic.
Funded through, thank you, funded through the strategic fund. And all those in favor, or any discussion, sorry about that. Jumping ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead, Councilman.
yeah, you know, it's hard to say no to this ask, but that sounds like you're heartless. It's a sort of outside the tradition of we've had of just funding services, you know, I mean, funding shelter and food with type of service to residents. So, I mean, you know, who wants to deny medical services? But I think, you know, in the past, we've always looked at nonprofits that provide either shelter or direct shelter or direct food to those in need. That's all I know.
Okay, Councilmember Wiggins?
Yes, Councilmember Olin, you were on the scoring group or committee with City Clerk John, is that correct? Botero?
I was, yes.
And can you explain if it's why CarePoint Clinic scored so low? Why, in fairness to the other individuals or agencies that submitted their requests, why did CarePoint fall below the line there?
Yeah, there were a couple, and so I mean, essentially what we had to do was we ranked them all according to score, and then at some point we drew a line, right? And so everybody below the line just did not get funding. They were the top one below the line, and so what I wanted to do was draw the line a little bit further. And so, you know, the top category where they scored low was so the top score was meets the city's human service goals with emphasis on benefiting the most vulnerable populations with the broadest needs. And the follow-up with that one was provides a core government function that the city would offer if it had the resources. And so it scored low in that category. I believe it scored low also, as I said before, in the structure of the organization had an emphasis that emphasizes volunteers rather than based on staff, right? And so again, because it's medical staff as opposed to using volunteers. I think those were kind of the lowest two. Yeah, I mean, I think if it were higher in those, it would have. Yeah. Oh, and then the last one where it could have had more points was, and actually I'll ask city clerk to comment on this, but so there was a scoring matrix that included whether the applicant complied with city reporting requirements if they were a repeat applicant. And so it did not get full credit for that. Had they received funding in the past and not provided? So that they were misscored then in that category, and so they could have had more points for that, but just misunderstanding among the committee.
Councilmember Wiggins, did you have a follow-up, or was your hand just still up?
I had a follow-up, but I wanted to go around the room and see if anyone had a question first.
Mayor Pro Tem Mercer?
Yeah, so this is one of those, I wanted to add a little context, but I want to also try to stick, the Robert's rules, like primarily discuss the amendment, but I think the broader question, it still helps with the baseline. I think as the clerk said, there was a finite pool of money. We had twice as many applicants as the last time. So it was already initial struggle to make, the square peg fit in the round hole. We had twice as much asked as we had available funds. So hence that sort of drove that. Some of the core criteria though, in terms of scoring was both the volunteer emphasis and then overhead. So a lot of the organizations, if it was predominantly to administration versus distributing services, that was one of the things that caused a certain group to score lower. And I think with, as Councilmember Olin said, given its medical care, its professional services, there's a cost associated with that. I think the context that I did want to provide though is we struggled a little bit, where to draw the line, because you can either reduce the funding from everyone, and we tried to fully fund as close as possible, all sort of the top organizations, and then you get kind of a little more into the horse trading at the end in terms of whether to borrow from one or to fully fund or to come back and ask for more money. And one of the things we did do is we asked the clerk to reach out to CarePoint for additional information. And so they were very responsive. They, within the same day, I think probably within a couple hours, because they also have clinics in Fall City, and which is where they're based, and then they do a Carnation. But I think when we look at their targeted customer is not the right word, but profile of sort of who they provide services to, it is lower income. They may not have access to a vehicle. They may, we have limited public transportation. So even getting from here to Duval, we do have the Snoqualmie Valley shuttle, but there's a challenge. And even if it's an initial wellness check, I think one of the things that's been recognized with healthcare is proactive healthcare has a multiplier effect over, waiting to then get the treatment served in emergency services. So it is a little outside the scope of what we typically fund. It is a new ask. I think we all sort of struggled a bit, like whether to adjust it or not. But given the conversation we had in council about the strategic fund, I think that's kind of what drove Councilmember Olin to look for sort of a targeted application. But I think again, there's no perfect. It all comes down. There's some subjectivity even within the grant application, but this was essentially an underserved segment of the community, and then those were sort of the three criteria. Traditionally, it's shelter, food, or food security. And then this was sort of expanding a little bit to the third leg of the stool, which is really the health and human services piece.
Okay, other council members, Councilmember Kozlowski?
Yeah, my only call out was if in the application for Holy Innocents Church, they actually call out they have a surplus. So rather than pulling from the strategic fund, maybe look to have them tap that, but that's my only call out.
Other council members? Councilmember Keppel?
Amendment to the amendment.
Oh, that is my
You have to vote
call out.
and then do a new.
Councilmember Wiggins, did you want to go ahead again?
Yes, did I hear that the clinic CarePoint was here last year? And if they were here last year, how was the turnout for that? And if we do go ahead and grant funds to CarePoint, will there be discussion that if they come back next year, here are some areas that we would like to see some directions to increase their, I guess, scoring if we're going to use the same matrices next time?
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
They were not here last year. So the grant was specifically to target services for Duval. So they were in the Valley, but they were not in Duval specifically. The 3 visits that they asked for, this would only be partially, was specifically to bring a mobile clinic to Duval. So this would be a first time. And I think, not to put words in your mouth, Councilmember Olin, but I think was to see how the experience went. So even though it was smaller than their broader ask, to see what the turnout is, and then to use that sort of for future assessment.
Okay. Other discussion? And then Councilmember Kozlowski, did you want to make an amendment to the amendment? That is one surefire way to get an answer from the rest of the council on what they think on your thought. It's your choice.
Sure, happy to make an amendment. Oh gosh. I'm gonna figure out how to do it. I would like to make an amendment to the amendment for Agenda Bill 2632 related to the funding of CarePoint not coming from the strategic fund, but rather reducing Holy Innocents Church slightly.
I second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded on the current amendment to still grant CarePoint Clinic $2,000, but have it come from reduce the Holy Innocents Food Pantry by $2,000. And so this would not come from the strategic fund, it would. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Oh, go ahead, council member. Yeah.
The second amendment would be to change the funding, not whether to approve the additional funding for CarePoint.
Right.
Because the amendment calls out for funding from strategic fund, but the second amendment wants to change that to the taking from, so you would have to vote on that before you could vote on the funding for CarePoint. So
Correct.
two points.
Are you tracking that as well? Clerk?
I am trying.
I'm gonna draw a quick spreadsheet here, flip chart.
But it's approval of the change.
It's approval of the change of the funding source and reducing the one, it also adds that element of reducing a fund going to Holy Innocents as the funding source, but not actually approving overall the 2002 CarePoint Clinic. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, if you reduce the funding for Holy Innocents, then
We haven't.
It kind of doesn't approximate.
Yeah, we haven't voted on any of it yet, so now, and I think we're now at our limit of amendments, because I think you can only do 2.
Yes.
So the current motion on the floor is to, I'm trying to think of how to word this correctly. So you're right, we're not voting yet on approving the $2,000 to CarePoint Clinic. We would be moving to reduce Holy Innocents Award by $2,000 and have that be the source of the funding for the potential $2,000 to CarePoint Clinic, which you would then vote on next. That makes sense. Okay. So is there any more discussion on reducing Holy Innocents Award by $2,000 as a source of funding, should you then vote to grant CarePoint Clinic the $2,000? Hearing none, and because I know we have one abstention, would you prefer a roll call vote for these, or?
Yes, please, if you
Okay.
wouldn't mind.
So we're gonna practice all of the things tonight. So we will do a roll call vote. You can say, yes, no, or abstain. And our clerk will manage that. Our deputy clerk. Yeah, go ahead. You can always interrupt for a point of order, please.
In this case, just, we should be clear what the abstention is going to, because that it will either. In our city council procedures, I was trying to remember if it's counted as a yay. Or a nay.
Oh, if it's a tie.
Well,
The point
just
of-
an
yeah.
abstention, is it?
Point of information for our clerk, do you recall if in this case, if an abstention, if there is a split vote, a tie, would an abstention lean one way or the other?
What's the majority?
Go towards the majority? Or you mean the affirmative?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Thank you.
What do you have to do? On the second amendment, Mayor Potem Mercer, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councilmember Olin?
Yay.
Councilmember Kozlowski?
Yeah.
Councilmember Supple?
no.
Councilmember Wiggins?
Yes.
It passes.
And did you get called as well? Yeah,
Abstaining.
yeah, no, I know, I just,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but you have it recorded, right, okay.
Then-
Okay, so the ayes have it. And so what has been approved so far is that we will reduce Holy Innocents Award by $2,000. And so now, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say now we require a vote on the first amendment unless that amendment is withdrawn.
Okay. So now we go to the next amendment, which would be as amended, approving to adding $2,000 award to CarePoint Clinic, which is funding from a reduction in Holy Innocents award by $2,000.
Yes.
Any discussion on that? It's a very specific amendment. Okay, then we'll do a roll call vote again. Unless you wanna,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Councilmember Mercer,
I think I'm gonna go yay.
Councilmember Olin.
Yay.
Councilmember Kozlowski,
Yay.
Councilmember Supple,
No.
Councilmember Wiggins.
Yay.
And it passes.
So now goes the main motion
Okay.
with the amendment.
Okay, so now we've backed all the way out. And we are on the main motion. Which is as outlined with the following exceptions.
Wait, I'm sorry, that was not the main motion?
No, that was just on the amendment. That was your original amendment.
Now you have to vote
On
on
the
whether or not you
entire
want to
agenda.
give all of it.
So let me read
My-
through it
my-
really.
So wait, the one that we just voted on right now,
That was just to fund $2,000 to CarePoint Clinic.
from the strategic fund or no?
No, because the second amendment passed first.
Right.
Which was to change the wording of your amendment to come, like, instead of from the strategic
Right.
fund, from
Allocated from.
reducing holy innocence number.
Right.
So now we would vote on the entire package unless anyone has any other amendments, because we're back down to zero. Of Acres of Diamonds, $5,000, Empower Youth Network, $1,000, Encompass Northwest, $5,000, Foursquare Church, $4,500, Holy Innocents Church would now be $8,000, Snow Valley Senior Center, $11,000, YMCA of Snohomish County, $3,500, and then CarePoint Clinic would be $2,000. That would be the current motion on the table.
Yeah, I thought that's what we just voted on.
What's that?
I thought that's what we just voted on.
No, we just voted on your original amendment as amended. So we voted on the first.
Okay, so his was to amend it. And then.
His was to
and
amend
then it
your
was to actually
amendment.
vote on
Yeah,
it. And then, okay.
yeah.
I'm with you, sorry.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
does anyone else, I'm happy to repeat the list again if anyone would like it, or does everyone have a handle on what you're about to vote on now? Is there any further discussion on the overall motion as amended? I would just add before you all vote that I served on this committee for 8 years and I understand how excruciating it is. It is very hard because you want to give everybody everything. And so I do appreciate the hard work and thought that went into this. So yeah, anyways, with that, we'll go ahead and roll call vote again, just, yeah.
On the main motion with the amendment, Mayor Pro Tem Mercer,
Yeah.
Councilmember Olin,
Yay.
Councilmember Kozlowski,
Yay.
Councilmember Supple,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiggins,
Yay.
motion passes.
All right, thank you all very much. And again, I really appreciate the thought that went into that. Okay, well, next up is our last item of our agenda, which is executive session. Under RCW 32.30.110 sub 1 sub G. 1 second, that's word. And that is to evaluate the qualifications of an applicant for public employment or to review the performance of a public employee. And I don't know, do I need to read that whole entire, there's one other little,
No,
I don't think that one's applicable.
We don't have that.
Right. A little, which one is it now? No, it's right here. Yeah, it's right here. Thank you. Okay, and then how long do you think?
15 minutes start, and then I'll
Okay.
contact you. 1-5.
15, got it. Council will be in executive session until, what is that, 8:06. Is my math correct?
Yes.
Yeah, 8:06 PM. We are not, where we are.
We are not.
We are not expected, the city council is not expected to take further action following the executive session.
Hey, City Clerk Botero, I'm gonna drop.
Councilmember Wiggins, Cynthia will be calling you in about 2 minutes.
But maybe 3 times.
Okay, I'll hang tight.
Council will return on the record at 2016. Council will return on the record at 2021.
Okay, so I call the Duval City Council regular meeting back to order at 8:17 p.m. And as there's no further business, if there are no objections, we will adjourn at 8:17 p.m.